There's no way out. I've got to show them what I've become. There's no doubt. Got my back to the wall and I'm still hanging on. There's no way out. I've made my choice, here's where I belong. And there's no doubt. When the road gets tough, I keep my head strong, strong, strong.
Troubles in my life have been all the same, with a strain in my mind, getting hurt again. There's a pain in my heart, but it's just a game. Gotta get over it, won't go insane. Won't achieve anything while I'm down. Don't wanna give out my heavy-weighted frown. I'm stopping this now, I'ma turn it around. Heaven's on the ground, now I'm looking at the clouds. Gonna make a change, like a change maker getting changed. Gonna stay the same, with my mind frame rearranged. Gonna wash the blue out my mind, and my eyes was I blind in my mind. Cause that was old times, cause I'm starting fresh with a clear vision. You can even spell my name in optimism. Subtract the M's, an I and a P, and then what you're left with is me.
There's no way out. I've got to show them what I've become. There's no doubt. Got my back to the wall and I'm still hanging on. There's no way out. I've made my choice, here's where I belong. There's no doubt. When the road gets tough, I keep my head strong.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's episode of the ZodWriter Show. Happy New Year to everyone out there listening to this show. This is the first episode of the ZodWriter Show for the year 2014, and with me tonight I have a special guest co-host. That is Victoria from Cyber Love Talk. She's joining me tonight for this very special inaugural episode of 2014. Welcome to the ZodWriter Show, Victoria.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
It's great to have you on the show with me. This show is, as you know, a little bit different from the other one that we do on Friday nights. But I guess tonight's show, I wanted to really get into a really amazing topic. But before we start talking about that, I have to mention the fact that we are going to have a special guest joining us at the top of the second hour of the show, Mr. Ashton Williams, who is an Iraq War veteran and had his larynx crushed during the Iraq War, had a UFO experience, and I had him on the show a long time ago, and I interviewed him for about an hour, and he discussed his UFO situation, and he's going to be coming back on the show at the top of the second hour to give us an update. I guess he had another experience, or he had another run-in with UFOs. It's going to be interesting because I have not really spoken very much with Mr. Williams since that interview that I did, and so it'll be nice to have him back on the show for a return. But aside from that, we also have a great topic I want to discuss tonight, which is, first of all, unreliable people. How do you feel about unreliable people, Victoria?
Oh, it drives me crazy when people say they're going to be there and they're not there, or they say they're going to do something and they don't do something. It absolutely drives me crazy. You just almost want to sometimes reach for the phone and give them a good shake, but legally I know we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Well, my thing is this. I kind of look at, unreliability on so many levels, not just in terms of, if I'm counting on you to do something, or if, it's a dependent situation where you need help from someone else and they need you. Because it always amazes me how some people, if they need something from you or they need a favor from you and you're always there and willing to give it, and then when you go back to them for something, or they give you nothing but issues. Like, you do something for somebody, like you say, hey, can you spot me? And they say to you, hey, can you spot me $10? And you give them the $10, and it takes them a month or two to pay it back to you. And it's like, dude, it was only $10. You know what I mean? I mean, that's one thing that, one way of looking at it. Then, I have another situation where I don't want to mention any names, but there's a radio show on just prior to this one. It's kind of comic booky. Almost every week, the dudes go overtime. I tell the dudes, look, I got to start my show on time. I got to start my show at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday nights, because if my show is not off the air within 2 hours, I run into a problem because there's another show called Skywatchers Radio that airs after this one, that airs almost immediately after this one. And that show is going to be a great show tonight, actually, so I'm going to kind of plug them. They are going to have Stephen Bassett on the air with them tonight. That's going to be a great show. And it's going to be with Jackal and Alan. So I'm looking forward to that show. Another, a really, really big and great ufology show on PSN-Radio.com. And again, it kind of ties all in with Ashton Williams, who is, who had a UFO experience and is actually going to be on the show again tonight. So it kind of matches up content-wise. But yeah, getting back to unreliable people. so yeah, you have that, and you have kind of situations where you're in a dire situation and you need that help, and then you find out that you're on your own. So that's
it's true. I find, but unreliability is everywhere nowadays. It's not just people.
Yes. Exactly.
It's you take even as far-fetched as the weather, it's just like it goes, you can't, like, it just changes on the drop of the hat. Other things that I find actually with unreliability that drive me crazy is electronic items around the house, like for how many times my phone freezes, or I had a little issue tonight with my computer where it decided to update 5 minutes before we were going to go on air. So I think it's unreliability is all around us now, with especially all the electronic gadgets and everything.
Yeah, I mean, and that fits in perfectly too with the second tier part of this whole debate I wanted to have about unreliable people. When we talk about where we're going as a human society in terms of nowadays, it's all about gadgets. It's all about social media, chatting on Facebook, chatting on, any kind of, social media thing through your phone or whatever. People don't use their phones as phones anymore. They use them as texting devices. You want to hear something about your family or about your friends important, they don't call you anymore. They want to text you about it. And if you're like me, I don't carry around a cell phone. The only time I have a cell phone is when I'm at work, because I do some work where I have to use a phone to dispatch people. And when I have that phone, it's like I don't use it to call, to text people or anything like that. I use it for work-related purposes. And it's like when I'm at home, I don't have a cell phone, so I don't sit there texting people or, communicating that way. I like to communicate verbally. I like to actually get on the phone and have a conversation. And it's just, I think that whole part of society has been lost with the digital age.
It has. I'm unfortunately one of those people that you would probably really not be too happy with. I am one of those people who literally, and I'm trying not to do it now when I go into a social situation, but I am one of those people who pull out their phone every 2-3 seconds to see if I've got anything. It's absolutely ridiculous how much I actually look at my phone. I don't wait for it even to beep anymore. I look to see if I've got a text, or I've got my Facebook on there. A lot of people have their Skype on there. They have all kinds of other social medias on there. And, as well as I have a BlackBerry, so I have my BBM. Which could also stand for something else when you really think about it. But it is quite crazy how much time. I mean, I'd love to time it one day to see how much time I actually waste just looking at my phone to see if anyone sent me anything, or if I didn't read the latest, my latest status on Facebook or whatnot. I mean, I was very pleased. My brother is his wife is expecting, and he actually told me verbally. I got told verbally before the big thing went out on Facebook, so I was really pleased about that. But I'm pretty sure that most people don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I had the funniest thing happen to me with that. Like my mother had went and had eye surgery okay? And it was like, it was a minor eye surgery or whatever, but my mom had told me prior to the surgery that, oh, don't worry, you don't have to call, you don't have to worry about it, but your dad is going to text everybody when the surgery's done to let you guys know how it went. I could have died. I'm like, really? I mean, I'm like, do you honestly think that I'm not going to call and check on you, even though I know I'm going to be at work? I'm going to be working all day, but I'm going to call. I mean, you're my mother. I'm not going to not call you to check on you to see how you were after you just had eye surgery. I don't care if it's outpatient. I don't care what it is. It's an important thing. It's an important, event that, if something happens, good or bad, you want to be in contact. And I think that's you kind of lose that. And then it's like, oh my goodness, I got to call you up and I got to check on you and make sure you're okay. And not only do I have to call and make sure that you're okay, it's like, now I got to worry about the text coming in, and then I got to text back. It's like, no thanks. I'm just gonna call, and then that's how I'll deal with it. So I ended up getting the text from my father, and as soon as I got the text from my father, I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna call my mother now, and I called her like 2 minutes after I got the text from my dad. So it was just kind of weird,
Yeah, but I'm sure she appreciated it. But I had an interesting situation. I went with a coworker to basically this. We went to a meeting, and there was a speaker, and I knew the speaker, and my coworker really enjoyed it, and I wanted to, hook them up so they could be, like get to know each other. They're in the same business, so might as well. And so I sent this gentleman is very, very anti social media, anti electronics, and he only has a landline, which kills me because I don't know how he does it, but he runs his life from the landline, doesn't have a cell phone. And so I sent her, I BBM'd her or texted her his contact info, and I did actually say in the note, by the way, this is a landline. And, she paid no attention, and she texted me back saying, my text bounced back. Would this perchance be a landline? I said, yes. Yes, it's a landline. I know it's, kind of strange, But then she actually was unable to call him and thank him and actually have a conversation with him. That made her socially uncomfortable. And I thought, wow, how far have we come where, people are now almost afraid to actually have actual contact with you.
I agree. I think that's what it is. Maybe it's the fear, or maybe it's more just like the simplicity of it. It's easier just to text you to tell you something rather than it is to call you. I don't have to disturb you with what you're actually doing by texting you or anything like that. Maybe that's what it is, because it's confusing sometimes. Like I don't personally mind giving someone a phone call or getting a phone call. It's sort of, it doesn't bother me. I mean, and like I say, maybe I'm old-fashioned because I feel that way because of all this technology. I mean, I'll text when I have to, but here's my problem. If I have to text you on the work phone that I use, and because of the nature of what I do, it's horrible because it's not one of those phones that has a...
it's not a smartphone.
It's not a smartphone, and it doesn't have a keyboard on it. So you have to use. So you have to use the. How you have to use the numbers to turn the numbers into letters, and to get into the alphabet, and to get into all the symbols. It's just so cumbersome to sit there and do it. And by the time you get a sentence out, it doesn't even come out very coherently, because if I want to text somebody something really quickly, I don't want to have to worry about punctuation. Yes. I consider myself to be very articulate when I speak. So definitely. I want to be able to type in the same manner. And I know sometimes when I type out if I'm typing quickly or if I'm upset about something, I might invert some stuff that I'm typing, accidentally. But my whole point is that when you're doing a text, it's different, and every little letter has to mean something, has to be an issue. So like I can't stand that though. The whole thing where everything is constantly text, constantly, through digital communication, whereas, a simple conversation can mean so much more. I just feel that way. It's like when you call to wish somebody in your family a happy birthday. If it's your brother or somebody directly related to you, you'll call them, wish them happy birthday. And it will mean so much more them hearing from you on your birthday rather than you posting happy birthday on their Facebook wall or sending them a text happy birthday, or you know what I mean?
Agree.
It's just and I don't mind, like, for example, for like friends and stuff, not my like immediate family, but for like friends whom I talk to mostly online, I'll do that. I'll put happy birthday on their Facebook wall or whatever, because I mainly chat with them online anyway.
Yes.
It's not like they have, daily conversations with me online, through the phone. So I'm not, I just would feel more comfortable verbally expressing it to like my closest friends or my immediate family. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I feel like it's become a total blitz of that's all anybody wants to do anymore. And I don't know if
I expect a happy birthday on my wall next week.
oh yeah, you're definitely going to get a happy birthday from me on your wall next week. It's like this. Particularly when you do like radio shows with people, you actually verbally talk to them all the time. You're around them, and you get to know them better. And that's where I'm going with this whole topic. I feel like the art of the human way of communicating, like verbally, is being lost completely now.
I agree. I mean, I think it's there. Like, you've got my coworker who's the extreme, who actually refuses to have a cell phone, and then you have the other people, like my coworker, for example, who she doesn't like speaking to people on the phone. So this is almost the perfect situation for people who are introverted. It allows them to put up more walls, and that's where I think it's no good, because you can't. I don't know if you've ever get the text. It's like, oh, you're late. Is everything okay? And you get back, I'm fine. Like, if you're talking to me, you can tell if I'm fine, or, oh, no, I'm fine. Like you can get more insight into what that means, because most of the time when someone says I'm fine to me, especially if it's verbal, it could be I'm fine, or I'm fine, or or I'm fine, yeah, I'm good, but that's lost with the texting and everything else. Like, you can't get any tone from a text.
Well, that's the thing, and I feel like you have a lot more misunderstandings, too, that occur online, because you could potentially be joking in a text. And I have this one story that a friend of mine told me where he said he texted a friend of his, a co-worker, and he sent him a text. He was just like goofing around, and he sent him this message. Now, I don't know if I would joke like this with a coworker. I think that he kind of crossed the line a little bit, text or no, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. This was like a buddy of his, a coworker, and and the coworker had sent him a message saying, "Man, it sure is cold outside. I really can't wait to get in the house and warm up and have a nice dinner and relax." And so he sent him a message like, sent him a message like, hey, how's it going? Want me to come over later?
Oh no!
And he said it like, and he was totally, jesting and joking, but because he sent it in a text, and he didn't actually, it wasn't like a verbal conversation. The coworker took it the wrong way, and the next day he went to his boss and complained about it. The guy got in trouble because he actually sent him that kind of a text because it was deemed offensive.
Yes.
So I I really could totally see where that could be, on a professional level. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. You have to be very careful how you deal with people that you work with professionally. But the idea is, yeah, he was just joking, and probably had he called up and said it in a way, and said it and like verbally discussed it, that never would have occurred. To me, it's just like, you got to watch what you type to people, man.
It's not even what you type. I mean, I think we've all probably seen them. I don't know if you have or not, but like those bloopers with autocorrect. Like where the person is typing something and then and basically the phone comes up with something that's just absolutely just, horrible. I mean, I can't really go into them because some of them are quite nasty, but autocorrect can sometimes change what you're saying, and it really, it can make something that seemed very, very, that was very, not offensive, very offensive. So I think, that's also another thing is if you're not, some people are so quick, like you said, and you make a mistake and then the phone autocorrects it and all of a sudden it's like,
Absolutely. Well, I experienced that a few times with my work thing, and I try to correct that right away. Like if I'm sending a message to somebody I have to dispatch and I can't reach them on the phone directly, I will send them a quick text. And when you send them a quick text, you do have to be careful because that autocorrect will kick in based off of something maybe that you wrote before. It'll like word wrap something from a previous conversation or something, especially if you started off the exact same way and it has it logged in there, like in the history of your contacts. It just, I don't know. I feel like it's all just so robotic in a sense.
Yeah.
We've become this society where, where you no longer want to talk to anybody, and you just want to communicate through, typing and just words. It dehumanizes us, and that's the hardest part about it. Like, I love, don't get me wrong, the convenience of it all is really nice, but it's just the overall feeling that you get from it all. Like, where are we going to go from here? All we're doing is typing and texting, people.
Yeah, it's true. I find too. It's. Especially with Facebook, it's like connect with these people, but it's like I've got quite a few friends on Facebook who I'm so glad I do have on Facebook, but it kind of gives you this false connection with them, if you know what I mean. That it's like, okay, you're from high school and I haven't seen you in 5 years, and you like my stuff and I like my, you like. We like each other's things, we comment on each other's posts, but really, is that a friendship, or what is that? Like, it makes you almost feel close to people, and I kind of think, are you close to those people? Do you really?
It's almost like, yeah, because you can't get the tone and what they're saying, and you're not able to actually. You can get a lot from a person verbally. That's my whole point. And it's like, not everybody is going to be the most eloquent typer in the world. Everybody's going to make mistakes when they type stuff out. And I think that that's where you get the misunderstandings and you get the issues, and you get to the point where people will actually break out in arguments over stuff that normally they wouldn't, if they were just having a normal verbal conversation.
Well, yes. So this is interesting what happened in my office today, for another example of things that can go wrong when you're not actually talking. One of my employees at work by accident unfriended her boyfriend on Facebook.
Wow.
And that caused them to have a fight by texting. And she was like, "Oh, I just re-added you." And he's like, "Well, I don't re-add people who deleted me." And I thought, well, that's very interesting. See how that goes when you both get home tonight. But, it was a real big hurt on his side, where she just clicked the wrong button. She actually was trying to delete something from someone else's page and by accident deleted the friendship. But he got very upset with her over that.
That's true. That's what you get now. Like, Facebook is getting people to the point where they're like that, where you'll have, a family member will get mad at you and delete you. And you'll have a situation like that where it's like, well, I don't want to talk to him anymore. He forgot to drop this. He forgot to drop this off on Thursday or whatever. And you're just like, but we're family. We're gonna see each other anyway at some point. Why would you unfriend me? I don't know.
It's crazy. And this was an accident. I mean, they live together.
Yeah, that's even funnier. And the fact that they live in the same house.
He put at her back. And they had an hour-long fight texting.
An hour-long fight over a text and over an unfriending on Facebook. That is like the perfect segue into a commercial, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back on the ZodWriter Show on PSN-Radio.com. And when we come back, we will have more on this crazy topic. Be right back.
Your kids share a bedroom with a sibling? Is dorm room privacy a problem? Introducing Privacy Pop, a new way to create a private and comforting space on your bed. Privacy Pop is a bed tent that fits over twin extra long, full, and queen beds. Privacy Pop is your ticket to seclusion in crowded sleeping quarters. Privacy Pop is the perfect holiday gift for the youngster who likes building forts and cramped college dorm rooms. Log on to privacypop.com and see how this unique sleeping system easily pops out from a small carrying case. Easy to store and simple to set up. privacypop.com. That's privacypop.com. The perfect holiday gift for your grandchildren or your own kids who want a fun bed fort. Choose their favorite color. See this unique sleeping system now. Act now for a limited time offer. Use promo code RADIO in the checkout cart for free shipping. Log on to privacypop.com. Use promo code RADIO for free shipping.
Here's a riddle for you. What do the California gold rush of the 1850s, secret societies, coded messages, mysterious 19th century flying machines, and an early 20th century outside artist named Charles A.A. Delshaw all have in common? The Secrets of Delshaw by Dennis Crenshaw and Pete Navarro. Go to www.secretsofdelshaw.com to learn more.
Discount Comic Book Service, where you can save 40 to 75% off on new comics, collected editions, graphic novels, action figures, statues, and other one-of-a-kind items from DC, Marvel, Image, Dark Horse, Boom Studios, Top Cow, Dynamite, and many, many more. Go to www.dcbservice.com for easy ordering and fast delivery. Or you can visit our brick-and-mortar location at 10202-C Coldwater Road in Fort Wayne, Indiana. DCBS. Welcome home.
4,734 UFO sightings in 2007. Abductions by aliens or unknown species reported by American and British citizens, and hundreds more unreported in 2007. Suppressed information about collisions with passenger aircraft and UFOs that has been kept from the public knowledge for years, and only one trusted source on information from some of the top UFO researchers in the world. Exclusive information that cannot be found anywhere else on the planet. Trusted, connected, accurate. TheUFOstore.com. Expand your personal library with fast shipping and instant downloadable information from the largest selection of UFO products on the internet by going to TheUFOstore.com or call on the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week order line at 541-523-2630. The truth is out there, and TheUFOstore.com has it.
Up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application, Mobile Talk Radio. Imagine having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. You'll be surprised how easy it is to use.
So I think what's going on here is that Obama is banking on unemployment falling.
Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
And we are back on tonight's edition of the ZodWriter Show with myself, ZodWriter, and Victoria, my special guest co-host for the evening. And if you're just joining us, we've been discussing unreliability on a massive scale, as well as the inhuman element of communicating only via text or through some sort of electronic device, totally eliminating the need for verbiage or human contact. That's the other thing. I mean, once we get to a point where we can communicate via our minds, maybe then all that will be eliminated. All that miscommunication and stuff, because you'll just have like psychic links with everybody you want to talk to.
Oh, that's going to cause terrible trouble. I'm thinking of some things right away where it's like, where you might meet someone who you're not fond of, but yet, because of work or other commitments, you have to be friendly to this person. And I really don't want them getting the first message that comes from my brain where I'm really thinking they're not, they're
right. They're not the most savory of people.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you just kind of, but I kind of wonder about that. I kind of wonder about where we're going technologically, and where we're gonna get to a point where that's gonna be possible, where it's just gonna be, I'm thinking about you specifically. I'm thinking something about you, and I want you to know about it. So I'm able to transmit it directly to you. That's where I think we're headed. Like, the whole human, the whole human avatar element, the whole thing with all these, with how the way nanotechnology is going to change our lives.
I think personally, I think it almost might get to the point where, because they do this with information already. It's also they use chips, and like you talk about the nanotechnology, where my ex-husband and I talked about it. We didn't do it, but you can implant chips in your pets. You can also, there is talk about implanting chips in your kids, so you can find them or identify them, or
so almost like a really, really technologically advanced GPS.
Yes, and so what I think eventually will happen is, they've already got things for people who have hearing impairment issues. I kind of think that could be the next step of the phone, where it's like literally it's based on the implant, the cochlear. Is it cochlear? How do you say it? Implant, and basically attach a phone, sort of like a chip to it, and you can like pull your earlobe and say, "Hey, what's happening?"
Yeah, but it's going to be even more advanced than that, I think, where you're not even really going to need to pull your earlobe or do anything to physically, ignite it. It'll just be, when it happens, you'll just know. And you'll be able to communicate, almost like I said, like a direct feed.
Well,
like I'm thinking of you,
me.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah, that would be scary. Because like I said, you don't always think pleasant thoughts about people. So.
Very true. But see, you wonder too.
Do you really want your boss to know that you're thinking he's an idiot right at that moment?
But think about the money people are going to be able to make when they create this product that'll be the filter. And when you have this filter thing implanted, you'll be able to transfer clean thoughts directly, and you won't have none of that problem. So think about the filter would almost be like the equivalent of like the autocorrect on the texting that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, but the autocorrect can make very, very bad mistakes.
Right, but this would be a little more sophisticated. So instead of saying you're such and such, oh, did you eat that apple for lunch? Like it would change like what you were actually meaning to say rather than embarrass you. So I think that would be something that might end up happening too. Well,
yes.
Oh, this guy's got his filter turned on,
Thank goodness.
And once people are able to communicate that way, are we going to completely eliminate the need to have a verbal discussion?
I think then it would be, because I think if it's going to be, if it's actually you're talking about mind-to-mind communication, I think somehow the tone could be encompassed as well. It wouldn't be such a... like a monotone. That's the way I look at it with texting and emails. It's almost like monotone. Like it's like the inflection has gone out of it. So
absolutely.
So if we're talking about for lack of a better term, now I'm thinking the Spock mind meld. But I think if we're talking directly that way, then I think maybe the tone would be present, and that would give you a better feel of that person. Because I think it is a bit strange that there are people who feel they've got full healthy friendships, but they haven't been out of the house in like a week, and they haven't spoken to another person, person face to face in a week. Because it's not just friends and family, but it's everything else in daily life. Like you never have to go to the store. You can have groceries delivered. You can have everything done. And I don't think even if you feel like you're fulfilled, I don't think necessarily that's good for yourself as a human being.
Right. It's like that's where it is. Like the core of it all is the human contact is always going to be necessary. There's always going to be the need for that no amount of electronic gadgets or, digital trickery is going to be able to fulfill. And, that's the bottom line with it all, because people don't, you cannot replace that human contact, that need to be around somebody that you really care about, or even, like somebody, like a couple who's married, like the example you gave about the husband getting mad at his wife for accidentally unfriending him on Facebook. I mean, it's so like, it's just so bizarre.
Yes, you live together. You have a commitment. You're actually going to get, you actually think she did it on purpose? Like, why would anyone bring that on themselves? I really do think it's just, I think we do need more communication. I think, for example, Skype is another thing. My brother's in-laws live on the West Coast, and we're in Central. We're in the center. So, and my nephew knows his grandparents by Skype. But to me, that it doesn't replace, they still come visit. It's not like they don't come visit. And, because it doesn't replace the human interaction. Yes, they know, he recognizes them, but, it's like there's nothing like getting a hug.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're not going to ever be able to replace that. It's an invaluable thing. And that's why I look at it and I say, well, my goodness, they're talking about taking it one step further and eventually using robots in warfare and all sorts of different things, bringing us closer to that amalgam of man and machine in a sense that you see in a lot of science fiction movies and novels and things.
I think we were talking about this. It wasn't on air, but we were talking about the Amazon drones.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Where it's just like, and the first thing I did think of when I saw them was it's like, oh, it's Terminator. They're going to become, they're going to become self-aware, and that's it. That's all she wrote. So it just seems, but that's the way we're going. It's more non-interaction, like pretty much. I kind of think we're eventually going to get to the point where, are we all going to be just in our little cubicles and no one's going to have to leave the house anymore for work. So that's going to cut off people even more. We don't talk on the phone. We text, we email. Like it really, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more, like people are isolated to begin with, I think in this day and age. And I think it does lead to, if you're not careful, more isolation.
Oh yeah, I mean it destroys the human condition in a lot of ways too, because you're looking at a point where you just want to you don't want to see that gone altogether. But the reality is, with society being the way it is and being, everything is quick, we live in a time when everything is about instant gratification.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's necessarily the most positive thing that can happen either, to be perfectly honest. I think there's a certain element there where it would be good to have to wait for some things, to have to anticipate things. It's part of being a human being. And
yes.
When you have the ability to just get everything now, patience is gone. Like you can tell nowadays that people don't have the kind of patience that they used to have. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
because it's too easy to get what you want.
And it's also very. I mean, we've talked a little bit about this before, but it's hard sometimes to really remember that there is a person behind, like whoever you're emailing or texting sometimes.
Exactly.
I mean, I've seen people get really irate when their computer wasn't working and someone had to take it over and they were just cursing. And I'm like, the guy can't hear him, thank goodness. But still, it was like, why are you screaming at the computer? Like, they can't hear you.
Yeah, I mean, you need somebody to help you fix your computer. You're being irate, or you don't want them to see things on your computer. You get very protective of your computer.
Yeah, where are they going?
Where are they going? Where's he going? With that Team Viewer program. What is he doing with that? It's honestly, it's just like it's only going to create a more sheltered and vulnerable society if it doesn't get toned down a little bit. And sadly, I don't think it's going to tone down. I think it's only going to get worse. And all the stuff we've been discussing tonight about the digital implants and things like that, it again, it doesn't help the human contact at all. It just puts you further away from where we are. At least now we still have that essence of who we are as human beings, but eventually we're going to become more and more machine-like.
Yes, and I think also it's the amount of time that, you think you saved yourself time because you can text it or you can email it. And with some cases that is true. Like you said, like putting happy birthday on someone's, it's a lot easier than actually trying to get out your phone and think, I got to try and reach them at work, or, are they going to reach them at, here or where, or what, are they going to be able to answer the phone? So yeah, you can get certain things done, but I think on the other side, the amount of time we waste, which does lead to back to the unreliability, is like the amount of time I waste reading silly text, or the amount of junk texts and junk emails I get now from stores I shop at. Like, there's 20 emails today alone I got in my inbox from things that I do want them, but they send something every day. Like, it is stores that I use, so I do want to hear what they're but I don't want it every day. And then what has that done to my reliability? Like, how much time am I wasting every day reading pointless texts, emails, and, like, 40% saving today, only today, or so it's things like that, I think, as well. Like, these things are supposed to help us, but I do think they add to the unreliability of it as well, because so many people are wasting their time now.
Exactly. And the one positive thing that I think you can get from this is that when you do actually have that contact, that face-to-face contact where you're actually together with people in the same room and you have those communication and those gatherings, they're more special. They've become more important now, and they've become more it's like it's something you would look forward to now. Like, I mean, I'm speaking about myself personally, and like in the sense that I look forward to family gatherings. I look forward to getting together over the holidays and different things now more than I ever did growing up, because growing up, it was always the norm. That's all it was. You were always around these people.
Yes.
You got to see them on a lot more occasions and do a lot more with them than you do now in the digital age where everything is, text and everything. Now, when you get to see them, you're really, really happy about it, and you're excited because it does not happen as often because people have very busy lives, and I don't know. To me, it just makes the difference and makes those times all that more special.
I agree, actually, because they are fewer and far between. But just to give you some interesting stats, in July 2012, Americans spent 74 billion minutes on social media via home computer, 40.8 billion minutes on apps, 5.7 minutes on web browsers, and for a whopping total of 121.1 billion minutes on social networking sites. I mean, that's in July alone, and that's only one country, the United States of America. I mean, you think you could have solved world hunger, and meanwhile, everyone's reading "pull my finger" jokes. I mean, it's kind of
pretty much, yeah.
I mean, watching people in Walmart, not dressed properly in baggy pants, and,
yeah, exactly.
But that's a lot of minutes to be wasted. Really, like, and not to say that it's wasted, because they do give me a laugh. Like, I do check my Facebook during the day, and things people post I find kind of funny and interesting. But really, at the end of the day, did it help me with me? Did it make a change in me? Did it improve me? Did it improve my relationships with people? Like, or is it just kind of another, they used to call the TV the idiot box, and I'm just kind of wondering if all this communication is kind of being put in the same pile.
So again, like the evolution of the idiot box then, because you have smart TVs, you have smartphones, everything has to have smart in front of it now. Why? Because it's so much more advanced than it was. So the reality is maybe it would be considered just a straight up upgrade in that regard. But I mean, yeah, people are just like so like impatient now, and so just, I want everything now. I want everything when I want it. You see all these situations now, for example, with movies that come out. Nowadays, everybody has to know everything about a movie before it comes out. Because of the internet, you have just, you have instant communication. You're going to know about everything well in advance, and it's just like wow, it just literally spoils everything for everybody. By the time the movie comes out, you may not have already seen it, but you've read everything there is to read about it. You know all the spoilers. I mean, it's to the point where nothing can be kept secret anymore, really. I mean, with the way things are, it's so easy to see something, comment about it, and post it somewhere else like within seconds.
I think the other thing, though, with unreliability and social media is also the amount of false information.
Oh yeah,
flying around.
Right. There's no journalistic integrity about anything anymore. Absolutely not. Right.
Yeah. So it's just like I can't remember if it was someone who said the worst one I saw, it was on Yahoo, and it basically, someone put something on there saying, when did the Hunger Games actually happen? And so this person actually answered, and the person actually rated it a 5, gave it a 5, and it was terrible. It was like, basically they said, oh, the Hunger Games was an actual event that happened after World War II with people who were, incarcerated during that time. And this, whoever this person was, she thanked them for their time. So that's really awesome, because I really want to know where, when that, where the Hunger Games came from.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big problem too, and again it gives people that like to make up things the opportunity to fool less intelligent individuals and rewrite history.
Well,
that's a problem.
I just give a quick example from a show I really love. It's The Big Bang Theory, and Rajesh's his work is not going so well, and he literally was talking about what he does. What were you doing while you were working? And one of the things he says is update his Facebook status. And the other thing he says he does is go onto Wikipedia and basically mess up facts and have fun with people who aren't as, say, intelligent as he is. And I think how many times, I've gone to Wikipedia for things. And you just think, like you have to, just because someone, Twitters it or puts it on their Facebook or sends you an email or a text doesn't necessarily mean it is reliable and it's accurate. So
exactly.
I think people got to keep that in mind too.
Hitler did not win World War II, people. Yeah,
and he didn't host the first Hunger Games.
Absolutely not. But I think on that note, we're going to take a bit of a break, and when we come back, we're going to have our guest for tonight, Iraq War veteran Mr. Ashton Williams on the show. So we will be right back here on PSN-Radio.com. Stay tuned.
drive me more. I could bet all of the riches that I ever had. Rushing the night like a shark, babe, would it be bad if I had to set the alarm? 'Cause the thrills that are running my bed. You were my star, nothing else could lead me off track. Oh, I could bet all of the riches that I ever had. Rushing the night like a shark, babe, would it be bad if I had to set the alarm? 'Cause the thrills keep running my bed. You were my star, nothing else could lead me off
And we are back on tonight's episode of the ZodWriter Show, and we have our special guest on the line with us tonight. This is Mr. Ashton Williams, who has joined us, who was on the ZodWriter Show before and explained to us briefly about his, well, I shouldn't say briefly, more in depth about his UFO experience with his time in the Iraq War. Mr. Williams, I'd like to welcome you live on the ZodWriter Show. Thank you for joining us tonight.
It's good to be back. Your program is really evolving. You recently had a program on about a rapper named Corzi. I thought that was a very good interview, so I think you're getting better at your interviewing skills.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. I guess we could start somewhere along the lines of maybe you just giving a brief history, if you can, about your experiences, you know, and then kind of go into what's happened recently to fill everyone in.
Well, you know, you go into the military hoping to make a difference. You're told by your CO that you do your time, you qualify for the GI Bill afterwards, you go to college, you become somebody. And that's what you hope to achieve. And that's what I hope to achieve. And so I went and I did my time in the military. And I saw some pretty ugly things that make you do some soul searching. And in the process of doing my soul searching, you have these times, these down times when things get kind of quiet and your mind kind of opens up and you see things that you can't even begin to imagine.
And what is some of the things that stood out for you during that time and your UFO experience? How did that all correlate into what you've been experiencing today?
Well, I think one of the amazing things is the element of technology involved in the UFO phenomena. Please hold for one moment. And basically, everybody seems to perceive the UFO phenomena in a fictional way. They see the UFO phenomena in a lot of films and a lot of writing. They see what Hollywood wants them to see. And therefore, I think they see what the government wants you to see. But the UFO phenomena is quite different, quite a magical experience. And you know that you're experiencing a real thing when the Hollywood special effects cannot even begin to grasp what kind of alien technology and what kind of alien experience is out there. Far different from what you see in a film. And I guess I could say the first time I encountered this was in the desert. And I saw something about 2 miles wide in the sky. And I thought to myself, that just can't be happening. Obviously, I thought maybe I was having a nervous breakdown or something, because you just can't understand how a 2-mile wide hunk of steel can float in the sky like a balloon when you know in your mind it should just drop to the ground. So when you see something like that, it kind of challenges the senses and you want to run from it. But I didn't run for some reason. I just looked at it. And the amazing thing was the Iraqi children were looking at the same thing in the sky that I was looking at. But next to me, there were some of my fellow officers who said there's nothing in the sky. There's nothing at all. But the children saw it, and I saw it. Some of my fellow officers saw it. But it was almost as if the alien presence was only showing themselves to the people who they wanted them to see it. And to me, that is the most amazing stealth technology that you can possibly have. They talk about a stealth bomber being able to hide from radar. Well, this kind of stealth technology that they were using allowed them to focus in on one particular mind and say, I want your mind to see what we are, but I don't want the mind next to you to see it. And that is amazing technology, and that's something you don't see in a Hollywood film or in a science fiction novel.
That's incredible. You also talked about before how you the certain sounds and other sensations you felt with your other senses when you witnessed that. Could you maybe sort of describe that a little more?
Well, it was an unusual sound, and it was one that was kind of hard to describe. It's almost like when you're driving in the city of Chicago, and the gangbangers got their rap music on real loud, and you hear the bass from the rap music, but you don't really hear the bass. You hear the vibration from the bass that they have playing in their vehicles. Well, that's the kind of sound it was. There was a rumbling sound, and it went right through your body, and you felt it in your bones, and you felt it vibrating your eyes and hitting your eardrums in a way that just you never had it experienced before. And when you feel it, when you feel that phenomena, that frightens you because it's something you've never experienced before. And of course, you get that instinct of wanting to hide under a rock because you don't understand what you're seeing. But at the same time, there was this element of peace. There was this tranquility that was kind of helping me to get through it. And that's how I knew that there was some kind of intelligent design behind the sound, that something was inside that 2-mile-wide object floating in the sky.
So was it more of a positive feeling, or like what type of feeling did it invoke in you prominently?
You know, you can be in a room with a bunch of people, and you can all be hungry, but you don't speak language. You have Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, Farsi, English, all in the same room. All the people are hungry. They all want food. They smell the richness of the food. They all know that they want to eat, that they are hungry, and they want to be fed. Doesn't matter about the language barrier. The common language is the hunger. Well, I think what happened was they realized that there were a lot of soldiers who had seen unbelievable things. There were a lot of children who had seen unbelievable things. And they recognized the language of that grief. And they said, we notice that war is not something that is isolated to one planet. That survivalism is a universal theme throughout the universe. And when you survive, there's that element, that there's that chance that war might happen. So I think they understood the loneliness and the spiritual poverty of war. And they felt it, and that's what I think I was feeling from them, a universal feeling of compassion. Even though I didn't know their language, there was no word spoken yet. We had a bond in that desert.
And you also mentioned, that you had seen colors and various things that were like illuminating the sky. How much of that goes in along with everything that you were saying about what you were feeling in the examples that you provided? Were the lights that you were seeing, did they get brighter or did they get dimmer as the sound continued? How was it overall? Like, did you notice anything like that?
Well, I guess so. One of the things that I was happy to see was that the colors were universal. There were reds, and there were purples, and there were greens, and there were ambers, and these are the colors of our planet. And they were projecting these colors from their ship, leading to me to believe that they had similar colors. Another form of communication, if you will, saying that we're all linked, that the reality of your world is similar to ours. Our languages might be different, our chemistry might be different, but fundamentally, the colors of life are the same. The emotions of life are the same. We are all hungry. We all want to be fed, whether it is with food or with spiritual reunification or whatever it was. But to be there in that desert and to see the Iraqi children reaching up towards that giant ship and to be able to see smiles on their face for the first time in 4 or 5 months, I think that was a beautiful thing to see, because the children who are more innocent than us, who have not seen as much, they are more eager to say that there's something beautiful there, that something's calling to us. But the adult, being the realist, is always thinking, well, it might be beautiful, but there might be something else. So I think the children were getting the message first. And when the adults saw that the children were not fearing this object, it sort of set us at ease a little bit.
So when you experienced this whole thing, what was it about it that made it appear to be completely alien? Was it the fact that it was nothing you'd ever seen before? Could you elaborate a little bit on like what differentiates this from any type of object that you might see flying around by like a military base or during some sort of operation? Could you do that?
Well, it's kind of difficult to describe. When you see a helicopter or you see a plane, you see an object that is fighting the gravity around it. It's staying afloat because of engines and either helicopter blades or engines, or it's struggling to fight the gravity. But you see this 2-mile wide behemoth, and as if it's in nature, or as if it's cooperating with gravity. It's not being challenged by it. It has actually become one with the gravity, as if it understands the fundamentals of gravity. There is no military technology that I have ever seen that can do that. A stealth bomber has to fly thousands of miles to cut the sky. This thing, this behemoth, was at one, just floating, but you knew it was thousands of pounds. You could see it was a steel structure. You can look at any piece of steel around you and know what steel looks like.
Mm-hmm.
This thing was made of some kind of steel, some kind of an alloy, but it had to be heavy because of the mass, but it was just at one with the gravity around it. I've never seen it.
Wow, that's amazing.
It just sounds very, 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 very impressive. And the thing about it, Mr. Williams, is you're so very descriptive when it comes to this experience, and it's a completely, I mean, and it just feels, very, very real to the extent that when I'm listening to what you're saying, I can visualize it in a sense in the way that you're describing it. And that's one of the things that I find very, very amazing about your story. And what I wanted to do right now is we were going to open up the phone lines here at PSN-Radio.com for anybody who has any questions for Mr. Williams. I mean, this is really some fascinating stuff.
It's a very unique opportunity.
Absolutely. And again, the phone number here is area code 786-245-8127. Again, that is area code 786-245-8127. For anybody that has any questions at all for Mr. Williams and his experience here. Really, I mean, you're so in depth when you speak, and the way you tell it, that it's hard not to get caught up in it and be completely moved by the experience. I mean, because you're speaking about it from a spiritual and an emotional standpoint. And that's something you rarely get these days when people are talking about these types of situations. You have people all over the world that talk about a UFO experience, and they come off as disingenuous, or you really can't follow what they're saying. But you're so descriptive, and you give it. I mean, you add a lot to it. I mean, I don't know. I could sit there and visualize the entire thing. Could you maybe tell the listeners a little bit about where you've been since that experience? What's been going on with you, and have you had any more experiences since then?
Well, as you know, one of the reasons I found out about your program is because veterans sometimes don't dream very well. And so they get up in the middle of the night and they have nothing else to do but either think and look up at the ceiling or turn on the radio. But AM radio, of course, if the reception isn't good, you're not going to get anything. So you go to the internet, and that's how I discovered you. But the amazing thing about talk radio is I've listened to some of the interviews of these people who have counted UFOs, and a lot of them come on these programs, and maybe they get about $5,000 to come on late night radio to tell a story. And the producers are probably in the background saying, we got to keep the listener base in tune, so make it exciting, add a little color to it. Keep the listener on the radio, listening. And that's not what I'm doing here. I don't really care if people believe me about what I've seen or not. I know what I saw. I know thousands of people saw it with me. And I don't need anyone to say, we believe you or we don't believe you. I know what I saw, and I know it's real, and I know it's something fundamental.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so fascinating. We do have a question that's coming from the chat room from one of our fellow hosts here on PSN Radio, Johnny Alpha. He asked this question, do you follow the ancient astronaut theory?
Well, I've I've read about the ancient astronaut theory, and all I can say is we live on a planet that's 5 billion years old, and human beings have only been around for 2 million of that 5 billion years. I can't imagine how many societies there have been long before we even came into existence. I don't know if these are aliens from another world or if they're byproducts of a previous civilization. All I know is that they're fundamentally different, and yet somehow we are connected. So there's something magnificent going on. The pyramids of Egypt are built in a time when there was no technology like we have today, yet they built amazing things. So there's a knowledge there. It's an old knowledge. It's not the kind of new knowledge that you get from a cell phone or from an iPod or an iPad. I think what they did all those years ago was they recognized the fact that they had a billion-year-old technology right in their minds, and all they had to do was embrace it. And I think they were able to embrace it because there was no television, there was no radio, there was really no competition for the mind except to focus in on itself. And in that focusing, they found the technology they needed to build amazing things.
That's fascinating. Wow. Yeah, that really is an amazing way of looking at it, and it just sounds correct in a lot of ways. I honestly, my whole thing on it, the whole take on a lot of these shows that they have now about, ancient history and stuff, when you think about it, there has to have been something there. And, describing, the idea of a super intelligence that we just in our society haven't tapped into yet. I mean, that's as good of an answer as any, and it actually makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, because you never can tell, because they say we only use a percentage of our brain anyway. So.
That is correct, and that's one of the amazing things about what I felt when I saw that thing, that ship in Iraq. I think they were pretty much saying you don't need a spaceship to go to the speed of light. You don't need fusion engines. You don't need all of this magic technology. We're inviting you in, and all you have to do is go inside your mind and get to that 95% that you don't use. And when you do so, we'll be there waiting for you. That's what I felt. I think maybe that's what the children felt. Out of all of the devastation that they saw, just to see them smiling at something. Because, sometimes we get things from overseas. The people in America will give us care packages in Iraq, and they give them to us. But what really makes us happy is when we give the care packages to children who have never known what a candy bar is, or they don't know what jelly bellies are, or things like that, and you put them in their hand, and they're looking at it, and they're fascinated with it. And if everything is going well in their life, they embrace it. But when they experience human loss, then you give them the candy bar, or you give them the other kind of candy, and they just throw it to the ground because they've lost something significant in their life. And so when I saw that element of loss, that poverty on a young person's face, it was hard to face. And then all of a sudden, this behemoth is in the sky, and these children are smiling again. And that was just an amazing thing to see. I mean, that's an amazing piece of technology. Their greatest form of technology is the technology that can somehow reinvent happiness when happiness has been shattered from you because of a war that rich people are playing with each other.
Yes. That's a very interesting point. I really like what you talk about that, like how you really perceive that maybe the other people, do you think maybe that their minds might not have been able to absorb what you were witnessing as well as the children, and that's why they were not allowed to see it? That maybe their minds were closed, or...
I'm really not for sure why certain people were allowed to see it and others were not. I think there is good and bad in all people, and maybe this technology that they possessed said we want to go into those minds that are more open to us, that aren't filled with as much hate, and maybe in time, with the passage of time, and when the hate heals and the hurt heals, then maybe one day they're going to be able to look into the sky and see the same 2-mile-wide ship. Maybe you're just waiting. Yes, maybe they weren't ready.
That's really, really amazing. And like when you had people that had seen it, like you, how were you able to tell like that different people were registering it in the way that you were? I mean, were people talking about it afterwards, or was it just because of the reactions? Because you mentioned like the smiles on the children's faces and stuff. So was it more just the reactions, or was there a discussion about it after?
Well, I think you've been to a film before, and you go and you watch a film, and right at the end of the film, when you're watching the closing credits, your emotions are high because you've just watched a beautiful film. Well, I think that the emotions were high, and then when the ship was gone and everything went back to normal, you still got the high, but it's gone, and the next day manifests itself, and the overwhelming feelings aren't as overwhelming. You know that you've experienced something incredible, but as time goes by, you wonder, was it real? Is this what I experienced? And, you go back to your everyday living, and that's what I was seeing with the people around me. They saw something phenomenal, but they went on with their lives. And because what more can you do? You can wait for them to come back and re-express themselves, or you can do what they said to do and go within your mind to that 95% undiscovered country and discover that country. And when you do, we'll be there waiting for you. And I think that's the message. They're here. They're all over the place. They're just waiting.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely is very, very fascinating. And what we're going to do right now is take a brief commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to finish up our discussion tonight with Ashton Williams to end the first episode of the ZodWriter Show of 2014. Again, and if you have any questions for Mr. Williams, you could call in here at area code 786-245-8127. Again, that's area code 786-245-8127. And you can ask Ashton some questions about his experiences if you'd like. We will be right back.
It's just a stupid thing I've done. But she's the one you can rely
circumstances. When she's the one you can rely on, take you nowhere. When she's the one that keeps supplying with crazy new drugs. When she's the one that keeps me hiding from sun till sundown. When she's the one that I want badly.
I'm seeing a lot of crush injuries, blast injuries.
No!
Where are you taking me?
I'm not taking you anywhere. You're just following me.
Who are your heavy-breathing friends?
You will obey Dalek commands without question.
No, this looks promising.
So this is what you really want, Doctor, is it? To die defeating the Daleks. Well, Doctor?
There's more at stake here.
As I went down to Dublin City at the hour of 12 at night, who should I see but the Spanish lady washing her feet by candlelight?
Feet?
What have you been doing since you stole that antique TARDIS of yours, since you first landed on Skara?
It wasn't planned. None of it was planned.
Look at me! I'm not fighting a war while you battle the Daleks all the way through space and time.
As we rise up and bank over the city, I see the familiar view. The remains of a great civilization, now defeated, broken.
Come on, keep pushing! Keep pushing! That's it! That's it! In, both of you!
It's engulfing the corpse, the mummified body.
Let me out! Open this door!
It's happening again.
Go! Now! Get them!
When? Where to?
The priest hole.
What priest hole?
We just bounced off the edge of the universe. Slightly different, not to mention impossible.
An infinity beyond your imagining.
You.
Bow down before me. I am come to your world.
This is all horribly familiar, and it seems to be focused on us.
What the hell's in that container? You really don't want to know.
I can see!
Can you hear me?
Isn't a fellow about to stop the Daleks at their creation once, you know? But I hear he didn't have the stomach for it.
Unpack the lamp that you bought online. You misjudged the size every time, but it looked real cute and it seemed alright to buy something on the net really late at night. Everybody shops and everybody knows. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it really blows. It's your birthday now and you cannot wait to get the presents that you know you're gonna love to hate. But your friend's got something that you already had, so you try to act happy when really you're sad. Everybody shops and everybody knows. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it really blows. Buy that dress that's been on your mind. It's taken you months and months to find, so you put it on and you feel brand new. But do polka dots work with your stripy shoe? Everybody shops and everybody knows. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it really blows. Need a camera, but which one should you buy? With all that choice you could almost cry, and your friends aren't there to give you a hand, so you buy the wrong one for over $1,000. Everybody shops,
Everybody!
but everybody knows. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it really blows.
Everybody!
Everybody shops, but everybody knows. Sometimes it's fun and sometimes it really blows.
Like a fish doing that whistle.
It's time to stop shopping and start collecting. Collect with Boodle and get the things you really want every time. Register now.
we're rewarding you for something you already do, listening to us. It's Radio Loyalty, and it's an easy way for you to get free stuff. All you do is sign up. Go ahead and click the banner now. You'll earn points as you listen. Points you can trade in for great products and services in the Radio Loyalty store. You can earn even more points when you share your favorite station with friends on Facebook and Twitter. Radio Loyalty. It's free to sign up, so click the banner to join now.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, after our commercial break. We've been interviewing Mr. Ashton Williams about his UFO extraterrestrial experience, if you could call it that. I mean, Mr. Williams, how would you classify your experience?
Well, I would say that it was a first contact experience, and it was an interesting experience in that all your questions were not answered. You feel more wondrous than you ever thought you would, because you're experiencing something so different from the human experience that your mind just can't grasp it. It's just like you look at a cell phone. If you look at the inner workings of a cell phone, you have no idea what all those things are. You just know how to use the cell phone, but the technology behind it you don't know. So when you see a 2-mile wide ship in the sky, you don't know how that's happening. You can't fathom it, and so it leaves you with a sense of awe.
Okay, and Mr. Williams, we had another question that was brought to us from a gentleman named Thomas James, and Thomas wanted to know what your feelings were about the Travis Walton abduction.
Well, I've been in the deep woods before. I'm not a logger. He was. But the amazing thing about it was Travis was in a isolated part of the forest. Just like the desert, it can be a very isolated place as well. It's a kind of a place when you're out there in the wilderness where you're once again not being challenged by cell phones, not being challenged by televisions, not being challenged by the realities of life. You're focused in on a job, just like we were focused in on a mission in the desert. So I could see how Travis could have had an experience. But I think that not the entire experience, I think, might have been dialed up a little bit to sell books, because millions of books were sold about Travis Walton. And I think you needed to add a little element of color so that the book, people reading the books would be able to turn the pages and read the entire 400-page book. But the one thing that I do feel is that he was a lonely man working a lonely, isolated job, and I think the same phenomena occurred. That same loneliness, that same longing, that same feeling of wanting to belong to something. He must have called out to whatever alien intelligence came to him.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I myself had seen the movie Fire in the Sky a few times, and thought a lot about those elements from within. So basically, what you're saying and how you're telling it, it's almost as if every experience that is happening with, like in your situation, being a first contact scenario, is because you opened your mind up to this kind of contact. It was something that maybe you wanted to happen on maybe a subconscious level. I mean, I'm trying to visualize how you would view the connection in more simplistic terms.
Well, I really do believe that that is the case. As I've said previously, they're there. 95% of the mind that we don't use is the gateway to getting to them. And it requires a brand new kind of thinking. And I think that the government is fearful of this thinking, fearful of the technology that these aliens or whatever they are have, because they're saying, you can fly your jets and you can have your tanks and you can have your chemical weapons. These are baby toys compared to the technology that we have, and we're not intimidated by your governments. We're not intimidated by your politics. We seek only to find people similar to ourselves and to feel and experience your perspective on being earthlings and our perspectives on being who we are. 2 different planets, but each planet has a sunrise. Each alien is looking at the sunrise. And I think maybe they're saying, what are they seeing when they see the sunrise? Are they seeing the same thing I'm seeing? And that's really what I feel. That's what I felt when I saw that ship out there in the desert.
Now, have you had any further experiences with this since before? I mean, because you're so descriptive about your experience, and you've been so in depth, and it's really, really mind altering, because it really does make you think of things from a different perspective, a more profound, deeper perspective. And so I want to ask you, have you had any current experiences where you've encountered this experience again, or something similar to it?
Well, it hasn't been as profound as what happened in Iraq, and I think it's basically because when you come back to the States, you go back to the life that you had. So you're back in your house doing your chores like you always used to do, and paying your bills and working. All these things take up time. You come home from work, you're so exhausted, you lay in your bed, you look up in the ceiling, and you're next thing you know, you're sleeping. But in the loneliness of the desert, and in the pain that you feel from having to do something that you really didn't want to do, that keeps you awake. Your mind is vibrant and it's alive because it's questioning everything, and it's that singularity of thought that I really think is what opens up the gate to experiencing these things. But you can't do that here because there's so much competition going on around you. Even if you try to meditate or do something like that, there's always some kind of a sound that breaks the moment. So it is difficult. And although I've had some residuals, some experiences that haven't been as profound, but I think they're almost saying we haven't left. We're still here, and we know that you're thinking about us. And so I'm hoping that one day I'm going to see that big ship again.
So almost like portability. Like now you can take it with us. Now you can take it with you. The essence of what we are will always be a part of you, and when you feel it, you will be able to call to it.
Yes, and I think that's one of the reasons why the government is so happy that so many people are staring into their cell phones, staring at the television, staring at football players on the television, at games and things, because I think the government is saying once they discover the beauty and the magic of this most phenomenal technology, the technology of hope, I think is what I would call it, they're going to say we really don't need the government, because I think all of these things are being designed so we can't think. So that our minds will remain embedded on the screen in our cell phones and on our Facebooks and texts and things. But there is a bigger picture.
It just, the whole thing just makes, at least making me think a little bit differently in terms of where our mind is and what we can do with our minds. Because if that's really the way you make contact in that situation, it's almost as if you just have to have that, your mind just has to be open to it. Meaning, in terms of being believing and knowing that you can make that kind of connection and being open to it. I mean, what do you think, Victoria?
I personally think that's a really good point, because I think, just we touched on it a little bit before as well. It's just, the amount of time we waste in on the TV, on cell phones, on social media, and it does keep us occupied, and it keeps us from actually using our brains to just let ourselves open up and actually see what else is out there. I mean, it's
actually
like,
being human too. Being human beings, right?
I think what was just said was quite profound. It's the fact that governments and people do like it when we get so wrapped up in our own technology. It's almost like we put the blinders on ourselves, and we have a very narrow path, just like, horses' blinders, to keep them on the road. It's like, they're keeping us on a path, and there's so much more out there. I mean, it really is amazing to me, as someone who's recently trying to develop a more spiritual side, a more, connected side, that how much time is wasted in frivolous activity of our minds. Really is.
Exactly, because we can see anything in our minds. We can go walk outside right now, and if we look up in the sky and we think we see an alien craft, and it just happens to be some exotic bird that we don't recognize, to you in your mind, that is a UFO. That could be some sort of an alien if your mind believes that to be the case. So maybe it's again,
I think it's even
all how you perceive things.
I think it's even a little deeper than that. I can
Sure.
tell you how, again, how many people are looking into their cell phones, as how many people, when they walked out their front door, even though for where I am, it's absolutely freezing, but it was really beautiful. The sky was blue, the snow that was on the ground, and I did actually take a moment and really enjoy what was in front of me, as opposed to, I think, what most people do is lock the door. They're already on their cell phone while they walk to their car or they walk to the bus stop, and then they're thinking about their day, and they don't really take in what is around them at all. I just think it's totally off the radar. I think people are not looking around their own environment and seeing what there is to be had, so to speak. If that's sort of my feeling.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense on my end as far as how I perceive it. Mr. Williams, I want to thank you very much for once again coming on to my show and sharing your profound story with us and the listeners. I mean, it's been a pleasure having you. As always, you are welcome back here on PSN-Radio.com anytime. Is there anything else that you could tell us before the end of the show about any of the other experiences that you've had, though not being as profound as the one in Iraq? But I don't know, sometimes it's just fun to listen to you, Mr. Williams.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, that I hope all of the people who are listening will keep veterans on their minds. If you have returning veterans coming home, please welcome them home. If you know anybody who can employ a veteran, one of the things that the veterans want most of all is to get back to life, and one of the key things to getting back to life is to have a job. So I hope that all the people out there listening today will keep their veterans in mind. And as far as what you were embracing about being able to see a bird and thinking maybe that's a UFO, what I saw in Iraq stimulated my instincts. Instinctually, I knew that there was something fundamentally different. It's just like when a mother has a child. A mother can interpret the cries of her child and know the cry of hunger, know the cry of hurt, know the cry of curiosity, and that's all instinctual. It's a very old knowledge. Instinct is very old, and when your instinct says there's something in the sky that is fundamentally different, it's not a science fiction representation, it's not sci-fi special effects that you're seeing. You know in the core of your essence, the core of who you are, that what you're seeing is different. And that's what I felt. And that's when I think that's where I'll end the interview tonight, and just to say, trust your instincts. You'll know by trusting instincts. And
Thank you very much, sir.
I want to thank both of you for letting me be on.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very
again.
much. It's our pleasure.
And that was a fascinating discussion. I mean, he really does have a lot of stuff to say, and I mean, when he says it, it's just very descriptive and very, easy to visualize. So that
I agree. I think also with him saying it's really, I think most people do not work. They don't trust their gut instincts at all. Like, I mean, how many times, I think most people actually get a gut instinct or a gut feel for something and ignore it completely because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into what they've constructed. So I really think I really like the idea of be aware of your surroundings and trust your gut. You'll really.
Oh yeah. And I like too how he actually played up on that too when I mentioned about the bird. The idea of that you go out there, you see a bird, and it's in your mind. You're visualizing it as something that it isn't. And there've been cases like that before with people, so it's something to think about. But he was also very, very specific and open and honest about what he really felt, saying that it was instinctual, which is really not something that I think I've ever heard anybody on that subject say before. I mean, I don't really follow that subject to the letter. I'm not a ufology expert by any means. I have no knowledge of that kind of stuff, but I'm just going off of my instinct, which is when I listened to him, that he really genuinely had a moving and mind-opening experience. So that's, there's something to be said about that,
well,
positive or negative.
Definitely. I think that, when you talk to someone who has had a moving experience and then they share it with you, it does move you as well.
Absolutely. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and cap off the first episode of 2014 of the ZodWriter Show. It's been a fantastic show. I would like to thank my guest co-host for tonight, Victoria, for joining me on tonight's episode. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I love being here. Anytime.
And I will definitely keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and end the show with a really, really nice cover from an independent artist. This is a saxophone cover of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven on PSN-Radio.com. We will see you next week. Good night.